New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
From the New Thought Media Network, this is the Conscious Reality Show with your host, Sara Stevens Nichols, where conversation plus intention reveals a new reality. Every week, Sara and her guests will discuss what they know and what they don't. Experimenting in front of everyone with what else is possible. I'm Sunny Childs, and here is your host, Sara Stevens Nichols.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. What a phenomenal day it is. And how happy and wonderful I feel today after a 21-day cleanse that I finished yesterday. And the last 5 days of it were an absolute bitch because it was zero caffeine, which I was supposed to give up every time I've done that cleanse. Anyway, enough about that. I do want to tell you one thing I'm kind of excited about this morning before I introduce our guest is that, and he might have opinions on this actually. Today in my newsletter, I wrote about why is it that we have so many of us, not everybody, but have turned to AI, artificial intelligence, and adopted it and adapted it so quickly into our lives, like incredible speed, really, for an adaptation, where people, almost everyone I know is using AI for something that they used to do on their own. And when I started to think about it, I thought, I think it's because we are actually pre-programmed and hardwired to access authentic intelligence, which is the AI I'm most interested in, which is the unlimited consciousness that is broadcasting all the time and available through us. But nobody really teaches us how to access authentic intelligence. And the AI, the artificial intelligence, is so much easier to access, isn't it? It's like, it's really just right there. And the thing is that artificial intelligence is common. It's the same thing for everyone. Like teachers can tell when you're cheating on an exam because they'll put the same prompt in to the chat GPT or whatever, and out will spit the exact answer that student submitted for their assignment. And it will spit it out to everyone, right? But authentic intelligence comes through us, and it comes through our unique life and body and set of opinions, thoughts, and conclusions. And so when we write inspired by authentic intelligence, it's actually unique what comes out. It might not be brilliant, but it's unique. It's unique to us. And so that's my thought for the day. If you like my thoughts and you would like more of them, you can subscribe to my Substack newsletter, which is there's a little QR code if you're on the right device to be able to do that, or you can put in substack.com at Sara Stevens Nichols /subscribe, or probably just Sara Stevens Nichols and click on something and you can subscribe. Anyway, enough about that, but here to discuss authentic intelligence, artificial intelligence, and how we know what we know is Eric R. Johnson, who is, like many of our guests, but not all of our guests, a longtime friend of mine and associate, and someone I have respected and admired and loved talking to for a long time. But I actually haven't had a lot of opportunities to talk to him lately. So I was very excited when he reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're interested in how to know what you know." That's actually one of the things I think about. So Eric is a decision analyst. And so that means to me that he knows what you know, or he can figure it out. He can help you make decisions, or help companies make decisions, maybe more accurately. And he describes himself many ways, but one of them is methodical and not a perfectionist, which really sounds like Eric to me. So let's welcome him to the stage. Yes. Hi, Eric.
Hi. Thanks for the intro. Looking forward
Good
to
to
this.
have you here. Good to have you. And well, what do you think? Do you think authentic intelligence is more interesting than artificial intelligence, or are they both equally interesting, or what?
AI, when I say AI, I mean artificial intelligence is useful.
Yeah.
I use it a lot as a buddy, as a well-read person. I can ask, about this or that, what's going on with this key phrase that I probably maybe ought to have known what it was, but now, and it gives a good answer. It's easy, like you say. Everyone tells me at work that has to be all AI all the time, and the AI people say AI writes your emails, and no, AI is not writing my email. If I have nothing to say, I will say nothing. If I have something to say, I will write it.
Yes.
If I can't find a word, I'll ask the AI, here's the word. It sounds like this, it means that, but I can't think what the word
What
is.
is
And
that?
AI will tell me
Yeah.
the word. But no, I write and because I'm there because I bring my own thoughts, and they want my thoughts and their value. And so,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely aligned to authentic AI, authentic
Cool.
I.
Intelligence. Yeah. Authentic I. Yes. I called it the authentic I in my newsletter. And it may be partly because we've been around for several decades not using artificial intelligence, and we've been perfectly comfortable with our authentic intelligence. But it also, I feel sad for not having the experience of just not knowing and then finding a way to know, and as you know, I'm writing a book on the experience of how do you know what you know, and that's part of the reason you reached out to me, or maybe it was the only reason. And so what were you curious about when you reached out to me on that? Like what did you wonder about with that and with your own stuff?
So I'm a decision analyst. Those of us who are trained as decision analysts, one of our core competencies is working with human experts. So I was interested at your take on DA, which is he knows what you know. It's my job as a decision analyst to facilitate the decision, to elicit your expertise in an authentic way, typically probabilistically, because if it's worth hiring me to do something, it's not worth hiring me if it's well known what will happen. You hire an optimization person, and you put in your parameters and you optimize the thing. So I tend to have worked for many years in pharma, where you have placed yourself at the frontier between knowledge and ignorance. And so we're constantly playing with compounds. Whose properties aren't known, and whose interaction with with diseases and pathologies is not known, and it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to figure it out. And we use probability elicitation, elicit from experts what they know, which is all has a Bayesian framework, which is fundamentally subjective, which is to say it is a characterization of what the subject, the expert, knows. And so there are endless philosophic debates, and the Bayesian subjectivist view is by far the most useful way to think about probability. It's got, I think, a coherent underlying epistemology to it. Well, it's a simplified view of knowledge, which is that you knew something before, which we may or may not codify. Then you have new experiences and you update your beliefs in response to your new experiences. So that's the epistemological paradigm that I live and breathe and argue for in the face of people who say, well, there are probabilities out there and you can't know them, and what you're doing is not well founded, and we're going to ignore you, and we're going to make our decisions based on our gut feel. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm up against that all day. So I live and breathe my epistemological foundations of probabilities being a subjective thing, a good thing, the right thing in a world where most people prefer objective data, right? So it's an important issue. And then
remind me and remind our audience what epistemological means. At least in this context.
Yeah. Epistemology is a branch of philosophy that deals with how you know what you know. And so I've been aware of your career as a minister, if you will, that and your approach to what you call discerning. And your book topic is how do you know what you know, and I saw you asking some of your interviewees this question, and so that was why I wanted to have that particular conversation. Is to explore where you are and see how it relates to where I am.
Yeah. Well, of course, I spend my time, I don't know, some of it might be what you call a gut feeling, right? Teaching people how to access a sense in themselves of what is true for them, right? So one of the main things I teach is if somebody's trying to make a decision between, I don't know, it could be anything, right? Do I wear this or not today? Or it could be a really big decision like, do I retire, or do I choose this job, or do I marry this person? Whatever it is, one of the things that works best for me is to ask myself a question of, okay, what will my life be like in 5 years if I choose, what will it be like, actually, what will it feel like in 5 years if I make this choice A, choose to marry this person, and what will my life feel like in 5 years if I make choice B, choose not to marry this person? And then I dial into that feeling, and if it's an energetic feeling, so if it feels spacious and expansive and light in my system, that is a yes. And if it feels constricted and tight, like in my chest or whatever, that is a no. And obviously don't have to follow that guidance, and I don't have to believe it, but it is there, for me anyway, and for a lot of people it is. Now, I will say, as I have written about and am currently writing about, as someone who, was trained as a lawyer and was not brought up with well, my mother was a big feeler, but my father was a thinker, and my father was the thinker who I felt comfortable with, the parent I felt comfortable with. And so I did not think that feeling or energy was any way that I ever wanted to make a decision. I did a lot of pro-con lists, and I did a lot of research, and I was pretty good at making decisions compared to other people, like in the sense that I could make them fairly quickly. I didn't perseverate myself to death, right? But I would, and often I would do what I thought I should do. And should actually, it turns out, has a very heavy feeling in me, like very congested. And that was the hardest thing about me feeling the difference between light and heavy, is that I was confused because I was used to yes being should, and should felt like ugh. And so I sort of thought that was always a yes. Anyway, I just said a lot. Feel free to respond to any of it that was of interest.
I've defined my personal mission as having three prongs in it, and DA is one of them. So number one, decision analysis. So number one, it's being ethical, which is not lying and not using violence against others and respecting property. And number two is playing the personal roles that I'm committed to, including primarily being a good father to my son Willard. And the third one is facilitating good decision making in the world. So I have in my choice some should in it.
Yeah.
The should is a libertarian should. It's kind of minimalist, which is avoid lying, deceit, violence, and respect property. So there's some should there, and I treat it pretty much absolutely. As a decision analyst, I think decision analysis is great. I've baked it into my definition of myself. It's fundamentally instrumental. It says, if you have things you want, let's think systematically about how you go about it and figure out are you gonna get what you want?
Yeah.
So it's very instrumental. And if you want a feeling of openness, and if you can discern which choice gives you a feeling of openness, God bless you. You are not in any way in conflict or tension with decision analytic approach. That may be gut based, if you like. The gut that I push back against is in decision situations, in organizational decision situations, where there is a more or less understood set of values and objectives, and a key part of them is financial objectives. And when it seems that people are clothing personally motivated choices of how to portray company resources in ways that are inconsistent with the company's goals, that's the gut that I'm pushing back against, because that is typically couched as, I'm an executive, I'm smarter than you, I'm going with my gut feeling. The role of gut in a corporate decision situation, as opposed to a personal decision situation where it may be absolutely the thing to do, is that if you are in a routine, repetitive decision situation, and that expert has got decades of experience with exactly this decision in situations that don't differ from the current situation in any material way, then their gut instincts are good, and we should honor them and fire the decision analyst, or tell the decision analyst to go find something else useful to do, because that gut in that repetitive, well understood, familiar situation is a great guide. Portraying that as a great guide in issues where you have explicit objectives and you're at the frontier of human knowledge, it's probably a better way to achieve those instrumental objectives by explicitly characterizing what you know and what you think might happen and how likely that might be. So that's why in my day job and the things where my epistemology and my how do you know what you know comes to play, going with your gut is something problematic. But in a situation where that's all there is the subjective characterization, affirmation of a way of being that's wholly consistent.
Do you think something you were just saying that's very interesting? Something you were just saying made me wonder if, I mean, this is practically impossible to imagine, but if Donald Trump had relied on decision analysis rather than just his Donald Trumpian way of being, and followed what analysis might have said about how to get elected and get reelected, do you think he ever would have been president? Do you see why I'm asking that? Or should I say more?
Yeah, I can go with that. I mean,
yeah, okay.
I have something to chew on here. Then you can, if I missed your point, you can you can redirect me. But
chew away.
Trump's a politician. He's an effective politician. DA, a hallmark of DA is that it's transparent. It lays its premises on the table in a way that it allows and invites external criticism and a collaborative consideration. Therefore, politicians generally have no use for the explicitness of DA. If there were someone in Trump's confidence who wanted to help him get elected president, they would explore what he knows and what he knows about human nature. It would be difficult because he's not articulate, but he does have.
Oh, I see. It would be difficult to plunder his brain. Yes.
It would be difficult to characterize his expertise about the U.S. electorate in ways that are intelligible, that you could write on a page that you would feel like you had developed a sympathetic understanding of his expertise. But he's really, really good at it. So all of his pundits said that
that's kind of
attack ads against Harris was the wrong way, and that evading the issues during the end of the Harris campaign was to his detriment, and he should straighten up and play like a proper politician and be somewhat responsive to those issues. And he told him, he said, I know better than you. Just watch. And he did. And so if there's a decision analyst
and he had Elon Musk out there spending millions and millions and millions of dollars buying votes for him.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
But both. I
don't know that a decision analyst would come to a different point of view.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked, I think, is because when you said the thing about decision analysis being the most helpful when you're on the frontier of a, where you're breaking new ground in knowledge, right? And I was just thinking, I mean, it's kind of a ludicrous place to try to sandwich it, but I was just thinking about how Donald Trump has broken new ground, constantly, like probably almost every single day as a politician, at least. I don't know that he did as a real estate developer or whatever. But just because he does what no one thinks is a good idea over and over again. Right. And it works for him. Like, it didn't make any sense for someone who's been married multiple times and has been caught on camera bragging about sexually harassing women, was going to get elected, but no problem. And then, it just goes on from there, right? There's so many things that have happened over the course of the past 10 years of his being in our public life. You're not supposed to be able to stage a coup and a raid on the Capitol and be impeached multiple times and get reelected. None of it makes any sense. And so it's so fascinating to me how both can probably be true at the same time, that we can use tools like decision analysis to make these huge decisions. But then here's this massive decision that affects the entire world, which is all kind of hijacked by Trump just being Trump and running. And there it is,
Well, affecting the world is a fascinating issue. Affecting the world is hard. People who are in a near areas where you would like to have collective action want to use the government for it. And you might want to use decision analysis as part of your effort to convince other people or the government to do what you had in mind. And DA won't work that way. Well, it really has to bend it to work that way. DA's foundational principles is that there's a set of objectives that can be articulated and agreed to, and in a polity, you got different interests and people want different things, and that'll lead you to different actions, and so there you are. DA doesn't do it, so here I am. I got civic and social objectives that you may share, and others in my family may share, and other people in the country may disagree with, and I want to try and affect them or be constructive, and there's that frustrating moment where you have to distinguish circle of influence or circle of control and say, well, I can choose whether I show up at a march, but I can't choose what the legislature will do about it, or whatever is the issue that I'm marching about.
There's a lot of opportunities to march right now, aren't there?
Yes.
Hard to even pick what the issue is, although it's inspiring sometimes to see these, like the No Kings rally last weekend or whatever it was, maybe the weekend before. Yeah. Where millions turned out, and many of them are there for entirely different reasons. And, it's
fascinating, as and I'm wandering around, and the socialists are leafleting, and I don't
that's not your
buy
jam.
that. Not my game, but
yeah.
You're an ally, right? I mean, I'm not going to fight with you today. Great. Give your leaflets, good for you. And if you bring your people out here and we create a milieu in which they're push back against some of the attacks on due process and rule of law get rebuffed. That's good.
Yeah. And I'm out there affiliating myself with the butterfly, I'll remind people, with the butterfly effect, positive protest art, and their statements. And then I see all these people who have, signs that say, fuck Trump or whatever. And I think, oh, can't we just, I don't want to only be positive, because there's reasons to be there to push against, what is happening. But does it have to be, do we have to stoop to that level? Can we just be, there's plenty, without vilifying people, there's plenty of policies to be object to very forcefully, just as that butterfly sign. When oppression becomes law, resistance becomes duty. That's not, there's nothing namby-pamby about that, right? Yeah. So we're going to acknowledge our sponsor, and then when we come back, I'm going to ask Eric whether what he believes is the only reality, and then work with him to change existing reality for himself if he wishes to. So let's do that, shall we? All right. I just have to find where my video went. Here it is.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.
All right. Well, we're back with Eric R. Johnson, decision analyst. And so you had a little time to think about it, Eric, and you may have already. Do you believe that everything you see is the only reality? What do you think?
No, I'm trying to frame your question
in a way that makes sense to you.
Yeah, because if I look here, I can see about 2 feet, and if I look over there, I can see about 40 feet.
Yeah,
and the universe goes on for a good long ways beyond what I can see, and some of it is pretty weird and not terribly much.
Well, that's not what I mean. Obviously, you're only seeing a slice of reality. What I mean is, do you believe that we can change our perception and our experience through consciousness, or is it all just real stuff that is really there. Because in my master's in consciousness degree, one of the things we did is study quantum physics, and we studied it in a way that when I talk to some quantum physicists, they just make fun of me, and then other ones will say, well, yeah, sort of. What we learned was that at the level of the quantum field, there is everything is just a particle or a wave in light, and there is nothing about of what I see in my room right now. When I look around, you can see my altar behind me and my chair, the top of my chair, and my glasses and my body. None of that is predictable at the level of the quantum field. It is not. And quantum physicists do seem to agree that consciousness collapses possibilities into what we call reality, so that some will say a mountain has a very high probability of appearing to be a mountain to us, like 99.9%. But if all of consciousness were to agree that it wasn't a mountain, it wouldn't be a mountain anymore. And it wasn't just about exploding it with dynamite, but that it literally requires conscious agreement for us to the things that we see. What do you think about that?
I'm not.
You think it's all real?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way I mean, that's certainly how I interact with the world, is if it's real, except when I'm miserable. And then I'm interested in how consciousness can change my perception. You don't have to have something to say about it. It's fine.
I think there are rules of physics. The particles do what they're told, and that consciousness is an emergent property. You've telegraphed to me how this conversation goes, and one of it is what do I want about myself to fix?
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
One of the four things, and there were all four things that could drive me crazy if I dwelled upon them.
The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
The Four Horsemen, and I realized I left out a word. The Four Horsemen of the cognitive apocalypse, because it's not just about the world per se, but the thing that make them Four Horsemen is that they mess with my mind.
They're writing in your mind, yeah.
And one of them is evidence for determinism, and so I watch podcasts of a smart quantum physicist, and she's grappled with things like, is it reality, and can consciousness hide in the quantum indeterminacy or the probabilisticness of quantum? And the answer seems to be no. And indeed, one of the things that I don't understand very well, and that's actually been part of my choice, is not to dig into it to understand it well enough, but my woman's understanding is that quantum is right. Quantum field theory is roughly right about the way the universe is, and it's philosophically, the way we currently interpret it, it's nonsense. It says things that make no sense, and the physicists just do their math and hope for the best. And one of the things that I found intriguing was a recent comment that was made that all of that philosophical bullshit that is associated with quantum evaporates if you let go of the theory that the things that you measure are a choice. and that you could have measured something else, because measurement collapses the ostensible indeterminacy of the universe. What is measurement, and why does consciousness matter? And the theory, which Sabine Hassenfelder says stands up mathematically, is that all of the philosophical bullshit evaporates if you give up the notion that you had free will about what it is you could measure. And if you acknowledge that what you measured was what you were going to measure because you're made of particles.
That's the determinism.
That's the determinism part.
Yeah.
And so part of my response to it has been not to dig too deep into it.
To summarize, one of the things that keeps you up at night, let's just put it that way, it might not literally, is the idea that free will and free choice is not really factoring into the way that your life is moving. It's just all been predetermined. And how you deal with that and how you not have it, you not have to tussle with these horsemen quite so much, is by just not focusing on it or thinking about it. And that works for you? It's fine if it does. Then you don't need my help.
That I stated in my extended blurb of what it is how to keep myself sane and productive.
Sane and productive. Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane to think that I'm not making choices. Feels like I'm making choices. Like it.
And your whole life is helping other people. Your whole career,
I mean, I'm choosing to try and help. Feels that way.
Yeah.
There's no harm in me thinking and feeling and acting like I have choice. So that's why I sleep at night and go about my life as though I have choices to make.
Yeah. Well, I certainly believe that was taught that we're always at choice. In fact, I think it's one of the hardest things about being a human, and then to a certain extent, even harder things about being an American, because many, many other societies constrict the choices available a lot more than ours does, right? And I don't know. It's interesting. It makes me wonder. Yeah, I'm glad, I guess, that I never got taught that science was deterministic, or that, all of it was going to happen regardless. I do kind of believe, with almost no evidence other than intuitively, it helps me, that, well, I've read that some mathematicians believe in multiverses and sort of multiple timelines. And I am interested in that, like that every choice I make, there's another one version of me and another timeline where I made a different choice and that goes another way. I don't know. I don't have any reason to believe that's true, except that it helps me let go of, what people call FOMO now, fear of missing out, right? Because every time I make a choice,
the other Sarah did it the other way.
Yeah, the other Sarah, I used to be 90 pounds heavier, and sometimes as we were talking about, and sometimes I miss eating all the things I used to eat. So I can picture there's another Sarah that's really fat, and she enjoys being fat, and she enjoys all the things she gets to eat all the time. And I'm also enjoying my life and my thinner body as well. No, I don't have to judge that Sarah.
Fair enough.
And maybe there's another Eric who doesn't buy it or lives according to the idea that it's predetermined and enjoys that for some reason. That's kind of fun.
Fair enough.
Do you have trouble like changing the channel in your mind and keep getting it off of these various horsemen in the apocalypse, including the determinism, or can you do it pretty easily? And what do you change the channel to? Like what's something to keep your mind on that's useful?
Well, I mean, I have proximal goals that I come back to. So it's my mission to improve decision making at GSK and in the world at large. And so there are things I can do to help my colleagues at GSK think better. And there are projects that I've got on the list to stay on the list. Someday may get done in terms of ways to help with our professional society and try and reach out.
That's broader. In the, well, I guess that's beyond work in some ways. Professional society.
It's And
what about personal goals?
And then I got personal goals. So I'm finally got started back playing tennis. I'm not terribly good at it, but I enjoy it.
And it had been a while.
Yeah. And I've recently divorced, not divorced yet, but divorcing.
So separated
separated, and so there's getting that sorted out.
Yeah.
There is a realization that part of the problem was that I had no friends, and some may say that it's paradoxical to walk away from the one when you got no others, but I focus on building and re-strengthening old friendships that worked and building new ones that can work. So, and I have civic concerns. So there's civic activism.
Oh, really? There's some things to be concerned about right now civically. I hadn't noticed.
Right. Yeah, a few. And,
just one or
and
two.
I mean, and you've heard my spin on it. It's actually for me more about rule of law and legitimacy of government. Frankly, I mean, for policy matters, you know, would I choose a libertarian approach or a socialist approach? I mean, I've got friends who conflate the two, and I don't conflate them. I think they're different, but I think they're philosophically different. But I'd rather have an honest socialist. I mean, you know, that someone I can deal with, that I understand they've got some principles, and they're pursuing their goal for the world in a way that I understand their goals and I understand what they're trying to do.
I'm glad you say that, because I was thinking the other day at a protest, I was like, I wonder if there's some people who are some libertarians who are so freaked out about the rule of law that they just as soon have Bernie Sanders be president, you know, where they know who they're dealing with. Literally that exact thought going in.
Well, I mean,
my head. And I'm a huge Bernie fan, so yeah.
Hamilton was that way, right? I think that was how he got shot by Burr. Is that Burr was there in the Federalist Party with Hamilton, and Hamilton wouldn't endorse him, and Hamilton tried to zip his lip, but Burr pressed the point, and so he said, "I'm supporting Jefferson. I disagree with his policies, but he's got some."
Yeah.
And so Burr said, "Well, that's offensive. Let's shoot at each other," and they shot at each
other.
That was what they do in those days. But,
yes. No shooting now.
But I guess the point being, like Hamilton, I'd rather work with someone who's got principles.
Yeah. I mean, that was a really strong river to cross for Hamilton to support Jefferson.
But I guess, sort of take back to your point, what do I do about the Four Horsemen that drive me crazy? One kind of response is that I have proximal goals, and so there's my professional society, and there's my work, and there's my physical activity, and there's finding friends and people to spend my time with. I mean, I have a different kind of response. It's not quite the same, but there was a time a couple months ago, when I was troubled with feverish thoughts at night, and my brain invented stupid, needlessly complex problems and was trying to solve it over and over and over while lying awake, not getting to sleep. And finally, that I just blasted out of my mind by counting my breaths until I got bored enough. Get to 533, 534, and I get bored and fall asleep. But that can sometimes work, is just notice the problematic thoughts and just blast them away with something non-toxic.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to diagnose you as pretty healthy consciousness and emotionally, and it sounds like you're taking steps in all the directions that you can in order to improve your life, and to improve your connection socially, which is so important, obviously. There's so much evidence of that. A lot of people have much more trouble changing the channel or focusing on goals, and that's a big part of what they come to me about and I help them with. It's too bad you're not an addict, because I'm in recovery from various addictions, and oh my goodness, I have a lot of people in my life from recovery circles. I bizarrely sometimes just think about how I could be picked up and planted almost anywhere in the world, and I would have almost instant community as a result of recovery from addiction, and how lucky I feel, oddly, even though it's been one of the hardest things in my life, recovering from compulsive eating and workaholism. And
so you're saying that if you, I don't mean to belabor the point, but you're saying if you got plucked up and put somewhere else, there would be recovery groups from these pathologies that would give you a sense of community that you could tap right into. Got it.
I could. Yeah. And there are other things like that people use for community. Obviously, churches, if they're or religious communities. Some people do, what is it called? All those different, I can't remember what they're called, but where you get together and you're learning how to give talks, and you give talks to each other, and
Toastmasters.
Yeah, Toastmasters. Or various Seroptimus is a female version of one of those many male getting together for civic and business matters.
Seroptimist?
Yeah.
It's like the Optimist Club?
Yeah, it's like Optimus, but it's sisters. Seroptimus.
Sisters. Okay.
Yeah, I did that for a while. It was cool, but I had too many communities. I have so many communities, it's not even funny. But let's close out, and then we'll talk about how this show went and anything else we want to. So,
okay.
Here we go. Where's my closing?
Thanks to our guest, to host Sara Stevens Nichols, and to the New Thought Media Network. I'm Sunny Childs, producer of the Conscious Reality Show. Join us live next Wednesday at 9 a.m. or stream the show at your convenience. Subscribe to Conscious Reality Show YouTube channel so you never miss a show. If you'd like to learn more about us, check out www.sarastevensnichols.com.
Yes, and I'm also wanted to tell you, and I forgot to do it right before the outro, that it's not too late to join the Healer Heal Thyself support group, monthly support group. You don't have to do it monthly. You can just drop in. Actually, it's not going to be the third Tuesday in July. It's July 17th, that Tuesday. And so feel free to do that. And next week's guest is Sandy Rogers, world champion dog trainer. And she's kind of a human trainer too. She's amazing. And animal is her first language. And in fact, I brought her with me when, you guys know that animals talk to me now, right? And that I in no way welcome that and do not want that. But then people keep asking me to come out and talk to their animals. So sometimes I bring Sandy because I feel like she actually is supposed to be speaking animal when I'm not. And what else? Yes, you can subscribe. Please subscribe to the Conscious Reality Show so that you never miss a show and you just always get it instead of having to remember, oh, yeah, Sara has a show. Let me look at it. And see you soon. All right. Now we'll go back with Eric and I talking. And how was that for you? It went fast, didn't it?
Yeah, it was fun. It worked like I had in mind when you said, hey, come talk on my show. It's like, okay, Sara will interview and we'll drive the conversation. We'll have interesting things to say. I was a little apprehensive at the structure of it, where it breaks in half as for this, and then something else happens at that time. But then I said,
it's a lot.
It's number one, it didn't feel disjointed or broken or changing in the way that I had feared. So that was great. And I am apt to host webcasts like this, and it was quite a delight to be in the passenger seat, right? I don't have to be driving. I'm not minding the time. It's like Sara's doing it. And the content was just as lively and fascinating as I had hoped when I signed up for it. I mean, we've known each other for years and had in some ways we think similarly, in some ways we think very different, and of course that makes for the best kind of conversation.
Yeah, that's always been true, hasn't it? Yeah, well, I enjoyed it too, and I wasn't sure. I've always enjoyed talking to you, and I've always enjoyed hearing your mind be different from mine and the way that you explore things, and be different from most people I know, frankly. And that's always something I've liked about you. And so I thought it'd be fun for our guests to also experience the Eric R. Johnson mind, because, people walk around and what occurs to me suddenly is that we're often just not, it isn't all about like political beliefs or what you're interested in, but it also is like what your perspective is, and the different ways we have of thinking about the world and making sense of things. And I think it's worthwhile for us to explore that more, right? And not just be stuck in our silos. Like I think about things very differently from a lot of my colleagues in the Centers for Spiritual Living, just because I come from a political and legal background, and also because, I don't know, I'm just interested in almost everything. And I don't know if you're interested in everything, but you always have been willing to explore.
Yeah, I mean, when you talked about think different, and I had a boss who used to celebrate having me in his committees, because he said Eric thinks differently than me. So it's always, well, what I try to do is think many different ways and see which one works.
Yeah.
And
I think
it turned out to be different than the other people did. Well, okay, then that was my little contribution, is that I'd searched, I'd stumbled across an interesting thing that the other people hadn't stumbled across, and now I can share that, and
the
world's a little better.
Well, on that note, I'll end the live stream. Bye, audience, and come back next week and see Sandy Rogers, world champion animal trainer. I mean, you cannot get too different than decision analyst to animal trainer. And Eric and I'll just keep talking and you won't be able to listen. Ha ha.